For all the people watching us, I have to let all of you know that it's time to brew more conversations now via a panel discussion. Well, the discussion that would accentuate on will automation solve the cybersecurity challenge? Well, let's find out the answers because the discussion would be moderated by Mr. Anil Chopra, the Vice President, Cybermedia Research and Consulting. Well, our much accomplished panel looks like this. We would be inviting Durga Dube, Global CISO, Reliance Industries. Mr. Dube, we'll be very happy to be welcoming you on board. We would also be joined by Mr. Samir Ratolikar, the EVP and CISO, HDFC Bank. Well, we'll be happy to be once again inviting Mr. Samir Shelke, the CEO and co-founder, Aujas CDC Limited. And it would be great to have the presence of another veteran with us, Mr. Shiv Kumar Bhasin, the CTO and COO from NSE. With that, it's over to all you gentlemen.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to everyone. I am Anil Chopra. I am VP Research and Consulting at Cybermedia Research, and I would be moderating today's discussion on will automation really solve the cybersecurity challenge? And for this discussion, I have with me some very experienced, highly experienced panel I have with me today. I'll quickly introduce them before we start off with the panel. So first we have with us Samir Ratolikar, who is the EVP and CISO for HDFC Bank. Welcome, Samir. We have Durga Dube, who is the Global CISO for Reliance Industries. Welcome, Mr. Dube. We have Shiv Kumar Bhasin, who is the CTO for NSE. Welcome, Shiv. And lastly, we have Mr. Samir Shelke, CEO and co-founder for Aujas Cybersecurity Limited. Welcome, Samir.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for this discussion. And I think, very important to have a discussion around security automation today because, no industry is really immune to any cybersecurity threats. But the risk to the entire financial services sector has always been greater as compared to any other industry. And on top of that, I think this entire pandemic has created a far more complex, cybersecurity threats landscape. So even though, cybersecurity has always been top priority for, the sector, the urgency now to address some of these pandemic-induced, so to say, threats is much higher than ever before. And while, there are all these threats and a complex array of threats to take care of, there's at the same time, the sector is completely witnessing and undergoing a lot of transformation, with trends like, for example, open banking or the entire API economy to be able to open up your applications to partners so that they can kind of work together with you. Rise in digital transactions. All these, have caused a drastic increase in the overall security footprint of the entire financial services sector. Now, I think, is it really time to kind of reimagine the security outlook and, adopt some of the new solutions to meet some of these new challenges? Is automation the answer? Is something else the answer? I think we want to have a discussion around, some of these aspects today. So let me start off with Samir from HDFC. I think the pandemic has caused a massive switch to remote working culture and digitization, right? Both of which have kind of resulted in so many cybersecurity threats and increase in the volumes. So what is really the impact, do you think, of these pandemic inflicted attacks on security? How has the risk outlook really changed, Samir?
Right. First of all, thanks for having me here, Anil. And I think you said the context very well. You have covered almost from A to Z of the gist of what a CISO can think of. So I think, we are completely in unprecedented times. I remember exactly a year back, maybe 13 months back, when we decided that we won't be coming to office from tomorrow and we'll have to all need to work from home. So this is applicable not only to employees, but largely to this has affected the business model substantially well. just I'll give you one simple example of a call center. The call center folks who ideally were stationed in the bank's call center addressing the customer's queries, suddenly, they decided, boss, I can't go to office now, and I'll have to work from home. Imagine the decision in 24 hours, right? But where the customer goes, customer transactions probably, of course, it took a little bit of hit. In fact, the online started more, but offline took a little bit of hit. But then customer grievances, customer queries were supposed to be addressed as the pre-COVID or pre-lockdown. There was no change in that. Revenue streams. So the business wanted collections. Another beautiful example. The collection people, which are actually the fleet on the street folks, they primarily can't move, but the collections can't be affected because that's another important source of your revenues. So I think taking these two examples are the pretty relevant and important examples for the lockdown. It sparked or it created a lot of pressure on the business people for the revenue generation and to increase the balance sheet, which naturally added the pressure on the information security team, to my team, to me personally as a CISO, because the pressure on the cloud increased substantially. Right? Am I audible?
Yeah.
All right, because I can't see Anil's video, so I ask. So, Anil, you're there?
I'm here. I'm able to hear you.
Okay, wonderful. I'm sorry for that. So, so the point I was trying to make is, so the focus ultimately was increased on digitizing the processes. Okay. And two examples I gave you about the collections. One, second being the call center employees. Naturally, when we talk about digitization, the fundamental shift happened among the business leaders was to take bank to the cloud. So cloud was the major focus area for the last 12 to 13 months for our bank. Naturally, when the cloud was the focus area, the risk management focus was pretty much there, because we being the conservative bank, we did not want to lose the focus on the risk. So which, put the focus on us as employees. So assessing the risk out of the cloud in a time-bound manner, giving them the timely approvals or rejection. At the same time, the pressure on the revenue generation was pretty high. So to answer to your questions, I think it was a tough time. The cloud was the focus. You have rightly covered the API, the open banking, which anyway is a part of the cloud because it warranted a lot of fintechs opening up. Again, the cloud-based offerings, so API between fintechs to all, the liability servicing applications, to retail assets-based applications, to card-focusing applications was pretty much there. So I think it was a tough time, addressing or managing the risk reasonably well. So that was a risk landscape which evolved substantially well. Second important point, people realized, the fraudster realized the people are working from home, right? So the best time for them is to send them the phishing emails, social engineering attacks, especially on the EMI moratorium related initiative by RBI, by Government of India, and then trying to get their credentials or trying to force them to download the malicious mobile apps. So we really wanted to target or beef up 45 our sensitizations, our awareness initiatives. So that was another, multi-pronged, one of the example of a multi-pronged approach we started. And third, and another important, and the last perhaps from my perspective, is about providing the work from home, a dedicated, the setup to the employees to work. So as we're speaking, close to 19,000 people are working from home, completing accessing our remote applications. Close to 39 to 40,000 folks are working exclusively on mobile phones. So giving them the complete, unrattled access to our applications through VDI VPN solutions in just, a matter of time. So we just wanted to kind of be a little cautious while we provide the access to applications. We wanted to monitor the accesses of these folks to find out if the genuine people are accessing or the fraudsters are trying to access. So we make our security operations center, we put them on, a super solid alert 24/7, so that if any brute force attacks are happening, if any dictionary attacks are happening, trying to hit our applications, we are safe. So we carried out a lot of red teaming activities internally and externally to make sure that our work from home setup is secure. So 3 points. First one, securing work from home applications so that this evolving risk is addressed reasonably well, and there is no blind spots on the work from home applications, work from home technology, work from home infrastructure. Second point, addressing the employees, addressing the customers to make them aware about the phishing, wishing, and those social engineering attacks, including the malicious mobile downloads, and monitoring the rogue mobile applications through your dark web monitoring vendors, through your application monitoring vendors. And third, as I said, which is a massive out of these two, is about the shift to the cloud. So managing the risk in the cloud in terms of encryption, decryption, managing and making sure to convince the business about the need to have the keys with us, bring your own key as a concept, for example, as one example, or convincing them about creating your landing zone, managing the API security in terms of API injection, API related cross-hacking attack, because we largely use the REST APIs these days. So these are some of the large 3 prominent changes we have witnessed and we have had.
Thanks, Samir. I think very well said. I think those sum up in the 2-3 points that you have done: cloud-based security and the entire remote work culture. I think some of these are very, very relevant. I'll move to Durga Dubeji. Can you just give us your viewpoint on how has this risk outlook really changed? How has the pandemic really changed the risk outlook according to you?
Yeah, thanks, Anil. Pandemic actually has accelerated the digital transformations across the industries. Every organization you see, there are 2-3 dimensions. I would rather make it 3 dimensions. One dimension is their B2C dimensions. Another dimension is their B2B dimensions. Another dimension is the B2E dimensions, business to employee dimensions. If you look at B2C dimensions, where banks and financial services, they had a massive presence. And I think, in my opinion, both as a customer and as a regulator for 20 years, more than 20 years, I feel that bank have solved that problem. Because I have personally, as a customer, I have not gone to my branch for the last 15 years. I don't know who is my branch manager. When I was in school, my father told me that whenever you go to a bank and open an account, you should first go and meet the branch manager. So I don't know who is my branch manager, and I have no complaint about the branch. So the remote banking is kind of solved. So the only problem was in this pandemic is that maybe 90% of the people were coming remotely. Now in pandemic, 100% people came to the remotely, and the managing that infrastructure, sizing the infrastructure is something which bank has to take care immediately in a shortest possible time. That's one important thing. Coming to the B2E, what Samir told rightly, employees, the bank was very particular. Everybody used to go to the bank, they reach the office at time, all sort of things. Suddenly it so happened that employees were supposed to work from home. When they start work, not from work from home, work from anywhere. When they start work from anywhere, and that happens suddenly, then you have so many challenges. Challenges like, first thing is infrastructure. So whether your remote infrastructure, your VPN infrastructure is resilient enough to accept such kind of load, number one. Number two is, since it happens so quickly, whether it is secured or not, because all of us know how to secure a VPN infrastructure. But suddenly there are a lot of business pressure. It has to happen immediately. Whether security will do all sort of things what is required to secure a remote infrastructure. So that becomes a challenge. Every CISO will relate to themselves. They would not tell that what exception they have given. They would have given few exceptions here and there to make business work. So that was one of the challenges. And another challenge there, the challenge which is very related to this, which Samir also has told, there is something which is called a very stress-induced inactions. If you look at people who are working from home, who are supposed to go to office, there are a lot of stress. I mean, it's stress like anything. I mean, I for one work, we for all work 7 days in a week. No control on our timing. So it's what happens that in such kind of stress, you do a lot of inactions. Inactions means you may click here and there, You may try to find out that how to boost your immunity, and then finally land up in a place where somebody is there to fish your credentials. So what Samir told is like, I also agree that a lot of mystery shopping, lots of anti-phishing activities is required to be done to the employee side, and bank, they are supposed to do it for their customers also. That is one thing which is very important. One has to do that, and that risk has gone off. And the third one is very important, is the B2B. You have control on yourself. You don't have control over the partners. So as I know, the banks, they have a lot of relationship with their partners, and some of the partners are, I know for sure, things would have changed. I have not kept myself pace with the development. There are few partners that are not very technology savvy. So suddenly bank cannot stop them. Bank cannot say that, no, we will not do business with them. So somehow they have to adjust things there. So those partners, there the maximum risk comes. Something like card personalizations, something like so many things. Bank have a lot of vendors. Bank is very dependent on vendors. So those things creates a lot of problem. There only the risk is very, very important. And another thing which is important, which let me say it here. I have no problem in being quoted because I am no more a RBI person. Because the inspectors come this time, they would always like to come on board, come to the office, because no inspections happen remotely. Very rarely the strict inspection can happen remotely, and that is again a constraint. With all sort of thing, managing the regulator is becoming a big problem. I'm talking from a good point of view. I'm not telling that they create hassles, but I'm saying that a regulator has to do their own thing. But with these constraints on the banks, again, managing the regulations and giving them the compliance become another complex thing which has to be managed. And I think banks have been managing that well. I think till now, this is my thought.
Thank you so much. I think a very relevant point. Besides tackling a lot of the security issues, I think regulatory compliance becomes extremely critical. Yeah. And as you rightly said, that regulator is very difficult. How do they really kind of do any kind of adherence or kind of come and do the auditing if they can't really come to the office? So very, very relevant point. And I think a lot of points we've agreed to on what Samir said. So let me move over to Shiv. I think, Shiv, you've kind of heard a lot of these points that Samir and Durga ji has said. Just to kind of maybe if you want to add something to that, but more than that, would be really interesting to know whether traditional and manual mechanisms, are they really sufficient for evaluating a lot of these new risks that are kind of coming in? And to look at, as Durga ji mentioned about the regulatory compliance and all that, and preventing threats from causing damage. What are some of the limitations that you see from from these two trends and some of the solutions that they talked about, the risks that they talked about?
Yeah, I think you're very much right. As the other two panelists have mentioned, that as the digitization has grown rapidly and work from home has become the reality, even if there was initially some learning curve, some struggle to roll out timely manner these frameworks and technologies to all the staff members. But I think the challenge is bigger once the users adopt it, and various kinds of alerts, like while you are having in your security operations center, when the organization prescribed devices are given to the users, and then that in a control environment, people are receiving the alerts, and while now the entire field is open, in spite of having the cloud-based security, multi-factor authentications in place, still it opens up a various alerts. You need to reconfigure your monitoring tools to receive the alerts. But how much is that too much? Like how much you need to monitor manually, and what sampling you should do, or how much you will. So you will like to do scanning manually. That is very, very, very bandwidth kind of a question, and that's where again you have to rely on the automation and leveraging the bots and leveraging the mapping those various business services. We call it like a mapping the services with the operational dashboards, which is we can say the popular name is ITOM, that where you have to map these various alerts and which are segregated with respect to various important services, be those are related with the logins, be those are with the MDM devices which have been released as part of the work from home, or be it is the people are connecting via the cloud security to your networks and from their own personal devices. So how various kinds of alerts are getting captured, where there's a threat now, people are coming from their own personal devices and various SMB ports which are required for running the various applications in your internal environments. How do they clash, and what level of scanning you need to do, and a lot of times you have given we give access to our vendor partners who are monitoring our various kinds of infrastructure remotely. And so how to distinguish between any unauthorized admin privileges or admin accesses by them versus any of these users. So automation is definitely is there helping out, and because in a day, suppose now people are more frequently, because as more and more the multi-factor authentications and all are coming, but it's still the first factor authentication, which is user ID password, and as the password construct is becoming complex, like moving from the 6-digit to 8-digit, 8-digit to now 12 digits. So people are forgetting as well the passwords more frequently, and that password reset requests or password unlock requests are also growing. And even if there are self-service, but there are within the shadows of these kind of requests, there are some unauthorized accesses are also coming through. How to filter them out? So for such areas, definitely the point I'm trying to drive is automation is helping, and it is detection, time to detect. It is the most important thing, is that for the time you receive any such attack, and identifying first of all it as an attack, and then reacting to it, really the tools and automations are helping a lot. And the second one of the key area because of all these is now the ransomware, as and that is the new normal again, that people are having threats, that whether I am keeping my when people are trying to access, like especially your infrastructure staff is now accessing the even through PIM, they are trying to access your all the servers and other network element infrastructure. How they are being prevented from the ransomware attacks, as well as how are we keeping various nowadays all the systems are, whether it is databases where there are Linux servers or Windows servers or virtual machines or the cloud, private clouds, they all are mapping to ultimately to the SAN. So whether we are having right level of database or these file system backups at a different mechanisms to be used. So so that even for preventing for such kind of attacks, you can restore the systems much faster, and again detecting these isolating such servers from the rest of the ecosystem. So tools are definitely with all these examples I'm trying to drive the point is that automation is very necessary, and latency to detect is can be reduced only by the tools and automation. It is not possible otherwise. Even if you have a very well-staffed SOC, it will be very difficult to get those proficiencies from your SOC staff. And further, it is very important that these mitigations get implemented against zero-day attacks and various things, in spite of using the Office 365, like most of us are now on Office 365, or using various SaaS tools, be it as a IT ops, be it as a HR or finance systems. So all of them are now SaaS tools. So against, and all of them have those various security provisions built in. But how to ensure, these detection of these attacks and mitigations are rightly put in place. And we are leveraging various kinds of bots for preventing such attacks. And the point is, automation is, I would conclude it as automation is the key for given so many now the entry points are there to your environment. So automation is the key to detect any such threats.
Thank you so much. I think, very well articulated, and I heard so many different things come in terms of, new threats, new devices. So I heard that because of working from home, maybe a lot new devices are coming in. Passwords are getting more complex. So reset password becomes very important. And, time to detect, latency, you cannot afford to have any latency in that. So I think you kind of really highlighted very well, that some of the new, ways that, things are happening on the network, how the network is becoming more complex, and therefore driving the need for automation. Thank you so much for articulating that. I'll come now to Sameer. I think, you'll probably be able to give a good overview on, this in terms of some of the limitations that you are seeing in, in the current traditional and mechanisms for evaluating risk. So you want to kind of elaborate on that?
Sure thing. So first of all, it's a pleasure to be on the panel with our esteemed colleagues and friends. Excellent points made by everyone in terms of the risks as well as need for automation, etc. I'll add a couple of things to this from my perspective. So first is, I think whether it is now or any other time, the fact is that against adversaries or against the bad guys, we have a big problem that they have to get it right only once, and we have to get it right all the time. So that precise is the problem we have. The second thing is, funny enough, when I think of it, the bad guys have always worked in the way we are working now. For example, we talk about work from home. The bad guys have always been attacking from anywhere. So they've always been virtual. The bad guys have always used automation and virtual collaboration. So which is why you've seen bots, etc. happening. So the fact of being virtual, the fact of attacking from anywhere, the fact of being automated is something the bad guys are already doing against us for some time now. What we're doing essentially is trying to counter that from our perspective, because as risk managers, we have our limitations on a structured way of doing things. We need to know our assets, we need to know our regulations and rules and stuff like that. They don't follow any rules, right? So if you look at that specific environment, the need for us to sort of adapt, I won't use the word change to the risk management posture, but really adapt to this new way of what we are facing is most important. Now the adapt piece is about how we can, quickly change and how we can look at stuff and so on and so forth. Automation is one element of that, where the whole issue is we are faced with the scale of activities coming to us. We are faced with an issue of us trying to make it right all the time. So accuracy is important. So handling scale, being accurate is important. Third thing, of course, is the fact that skills in cybersecurity space are always limited. And as businesses grow and as organizations grow, those skills are always a challenge. So if you look at those three elements, the scale piece, you look at the element of getting it right all the time, which is accuracy, and third thing is on the skill side of things. All these three point towards the fact that we need to have automation in some form deployed in doing our risk management, in addition to traditional measures. The last point I'll say is, while automation is obviously a good way to do this, and there are amazing technologies which are being released in the market right now, the most important thing is to practically get it done. I mean, you really don't want one more set of tools in addition to what we have and deal with that challenge. It's very important for them to work in the right context, and hence using those amazing technologies to make them work for us, I think is possibly the most important thing than having access to those technologies.
Thanks. I think very well said. The points about that all the bad guys have always been on, using things remotely. They've always been working in the virtual environment and all that, while we are just kind of getting the hang of it. The industry is getting the hang of it. So obviously they're already one step ahead of us, and relevant about, being able to handle scale, as you rightly said, and having the right skill sets. That's always a shortage, and being able to do it right, accurately detecting all the attacks and all. So very well thought. Thank you for giving that perspective. I'll move now to Ratolikar, and Samir, what should be the now you mentioned a lot of new things as well, cloud and all that. So what should really be the new approach to security in this new normal, so to say, in the post-pandemic world, which is now much more digital? There is scale, there is cloud, there is so many things. Is automation the answer, or as a practitioner, what would be your view? Can you just throw some light on that?
Yeah, a couple of points. The way this digitization or digital transformation is happening, in my view, the most important things right now should be upskilling and reskilling, right? So I'll give you a simple example, which is a very practical example in our case. If in a digital initiative, which is say, a mobility centric, is to be rolled out to consumer, en masse, then the guys need to be trained or need to be aware about the mobile application, mobile device, and a mobile communication related threat and risks, which are again an evolving area, right? Another important point, which of course we discussed during your initial commentary and then later on what I said, is about API open banking. Today, a lot of fintechs and very interesting fintechs are coming up, and we are almost concluding one such deal with one of the known fintechs globally, and shortly you will hear the press release for that. Would be about the payment initiative on cloud. So they will transform your payment offerings. So banking on one side, the payment on other sides, and the amalgamation of payment and banking, on cloud, using mobility, using API calls, etc. So I think clearly you need a fantastic skill sets. You need to have a team which is will be very good about the risks on the mobility, risks in the cloud, risks to the payments, risk to the payment messaging, risk to the payment architecture in terms of where the middleware has to be deployed, what should be the connection to be happen, the risk in terms of managing the compliances to your Aadhaar, where there are multiple connection happening to the Aadhaar through NPCN. Now you will have the new regulations on payments. So I think that is one of the important area. Second point, which of course is the focus of our discussion today, is about the automation, right? In my view, I think, and I think Shiv Kumar also briefly touched on this particular point, is about the dwell time. Today, the success metric for a CISO is about how quickly we are in a position to detect and respond to the attacks. Okay, so dwell time between detecting an attack to respond to attack is going to be the key now and going forward, with this pandemic and the shift to the cloud, what is happening. And if you want to really achieve that success in detecting the attack quickly and responding to it, detect and respond, that particular window, then automation is the key. You can't have manually eyeballing about an alert which is getting triggered, and then talk to guys, to raise a ticket and then talk to him for the remediation. That will take hell of a time. So you need to have that everything goes automatically, right from detection of attack to attack analysis, connecting that analysis to a threat intelligence service provider for URL reputation, or the content reputation, managing to your anti-APT appliance about finding out whether any endpoint has this particular alert triggered or not, going all the way to a security service desk to raise a ticket, then immediately raise alert to your firewall or to your intrusion prevention systems about blocking it. So to extent of blocking, whether you want to do it on a scale of 1 to 10, a complete end-to-end, I don't think so that is possible right now. We are not matured very clearly, but probably 70 to 80% of the automation, at least in my understanding, L1's activity, the basic L1 team, the attack monitoring team or incident monitoring team, or even monitoring for that matter. I think that is something is happening. Another important point apart from this level of automation is also about the vulnerability management. Today, the vulnerability management attack surface or the vulnerability attack surface has reached to a level whereby there are the regulatory guideline in terms of VAPT, there are PCI DSS related expectations in terms of application security, your own landscape because of this COVID pandemic lockdown. So there are vulnerability assessments happening, there are penetration testing happening, there are application security tests happening. Everything, all these programs are generating some vulnerabilities or the other, right? Managing these vulnerabilities, carrying out the risk assessment, doing the the prioritized approach and then hitting it manually is impossible. So you need to have the automation, in the vulnerability management space as well, in addition to the incident management, the so-called incident management. Third important area, which in my view warrants automation, is about the routine processes. Today, as simple as I think Shiv touched about the password management. If I lost or forgot the password, right? I'm working from home. Where should I do? I can't call a guy, raise a ticket and he may be sitting somewhere else. So I want quickly, I should be able to have the self-ticketing, self-servicing mechanism, even resolving to my password management, even resolving to my, the bots to carry out my other routine, the operational processes about the credit card request, as simple as the chat bots. Why I want to call a customer, a call center. I'm accessing on a mobile. I have a HDFC Bank's mobile banking app or a HDFC Bank's website. I'm quickly going there. I want a chat bot to take care of my request. So I think bots are another fantastic source or the beautiful front end for solving the query. So I think automation with the lockdown pandemic, when there are very less dependencies on the people, on the person to do the job. These three examples in my view are the time for the future. And gradually we'll find a lot of evolutions happening in terms of automation going forward in multiple other areas, including third-party risk management, vendor management. I don't want physically, I can't go. So the vendor audits for cybersecurity, which used to be happening physically on site as part of our relationship, now it is remote. Can I go and audit the vendor remotely? Yes, I can. I have 1,000 of vendors. How can I choose a vendor and how can I automate the vendor management? Another important interesting area, to take it forward, right? So like some of these, the customer facing areas, outward areas, some of the internal areas of the control effective measurement, where again the automation is required, and another couple of areas which I touch right now. Last point I want to leave here, Anil, is not only the automation, but we also need to look into the orchestration a bit, whereby, as Samir has rightly said, we have the security solutions deployed, which is probably a monolith or a siloed all along. Perhaps the time has come now to make sure that all those security solutions are integrated with each other and we can have the meaningful coordination, orchestration happening among the security solutions so that I get very refined outcome or the refined incident or event to act on. I don't want to act on the garbage of data to look into it. I think these are some of the thoughts from my end. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Anil. I think very well put. Orchestration indeed, as last point, very critical, I think, because security is becoming so complex with so many different solutions. How do you make sure that they're orchestrated properly so that, it's all well managed and you get one integrated view to be able to manage the entire, security footprint of the organization. And of course, the points around vulnerability management and passwords getting more complex. So very well put. I'll move to Mr. Durga Dube. You raised that very well point about inspectors not able to come anymore and all. So similarly, what do you think should now the new approach to security be with all these changes that are now happening in the new pandemic? What is your advice? Please unmute yourself. You're on mute.
So there are so many complex things which is happening. One by one I will say. One is all the co-panelists that said about password. I don't have any solution for password, but for sure it is a complex thing. I feel from a concept perspective, we should give more importance to identification than authentications. If we are able to identify a person, we don't need a password even. Why you need a password even I'm able to identify a person? So identification should be given more importance than authentications. Authentication should only happen when there is a context and there is a risk. So that is one thing which time may come. It may be very futuristic, but that will only solve this kind of problem. Second thing is, all what we are saying is like when the world of agility, everything is have to be done overnight. So security also should keep pace with the kind of agility, the kind of digital transformations, the kind of microservices based architecture which is happening. In that case, DevSecOps becomes very important, and security should become the part and parcel of the pipeline. And it is happening that way, but there are issues there. Today, I don't think there is a very proven approach for container security. So the container security is something which has to be seen from a different angle. Today, there are issues around that. I have not seen very mature solution we can do the proper container security. Another thing is, when all of us have been talking about one school of thought is like you would give everybody to come from a remote place, from any device, from any locations, they can log into the company's network. In such cases, the entire data protection has to be thought in a very different way. Your concept of putting an agent in somebody's system and monitor data doesn't work anymore because you don't have any control on their endpoint. So their endpoint will have, that is their own endpoint. You can't have a intrusive solution there. So entire data protection has to be thought in a very different way. I'm sure Samir would be thinking, I'm taking Samir Shelke, must be thinking in that way and probably could come out with a solution which is not very endpoint centric. But whereas endpoint is very important, but any intrusive solution in the endpoint will miss the forest for the trees. Another thing, when everybody comes through one gateway, there is always a need to look at what is happening in the process. What I call is a real-time risk monitoring. You need to do a real-time risk monitoring so that anything happens, you should be able to know and step up the authentications or do some more challenges. That is how things should work. And instead of every time somebody logs in, you ask them a user ID, a password, a second factor authentications, a third factor authentications. Sometimes these are all trade-offs in security, but time has come for us and COVID has actually taught us that we should think in a different way, that give emphasis on identifications, only challenge the person when there is an anomaly. So understanding the anomaly is very, very important. That is where the role of data science, the role of artificial intelligence plays a very, very serious role here. Then coming to your theme of this panel about automation, I'm a great fan of, I will not use that word automation or orchestrations. I would rather use the word the coordination among the controls. If you look at, I have been evangelizing one thought for the last 1 year, till the time COVID came to existence here. There's something about cyber immunity. In case of human immunity, all the controls inside a human being, they actually do a coordinated actions. Every control, they know that what control is doing, other control is doing. They do a coordinated actions. That is why the human immunity works in a very good way. If you want to take a cue from the human immunity and make cyber security as cyber immunity, then the first and foremost thing is making sure that all these controls, they talk to each other. It's easier said than done. It is very difficult to do, because in case of human being, all the controls are designed by one person, that is Almighty, the God. Here, all the controls are defined by multiple people, multiple vendors, multiple persons. So to have a API or to have some kind of a connectivity between them, coordination between them, it's a challenge. It's not that very easy. And that coordination solves so many problems. One of the greatest problems in security is attribution. Attributing a threat is a huge problem in security. And that happens because of so many complexities in security. That's a great problem in security. Whatever you do in security, attribution is a problem. So that attribution also can be taken care of if your controls are coordinating with each other. So that's something which is very important. For me, I hardly bother for automation. Sometimes some automation in an automated way or in a very mechanized way doesn't solve anything. It has to be well orchestrated, well coordinated. Then only it solves a long-term processes. That's my view.
Thank you. I think good points from your side, especially around, emphasizing on the identification and to look at coordination between controls. That's important, and not just automation and attribution, moving from cyber security to cyber immunity. I think some really, really valid thoughts have come from your side. I'll move to Mr. Shiv Bhasin on, some of the new approaches in security. I think a lot of now emphasis is happening on DevOps security as well, because suddenly with digital transformation happening, API happening, DevOps happening, I think there's a need for, the team also to start focusing on that. You want to share some thoughts around that, on new approaches in security?
Yeah, actually, as this pandemic started, and we had various large programs where not only the in-house teams but the partner teams were also working. So making that much more agile as well as painless, but at the same time making it highly flexible. That we know that 100% people are going to work from home, and if we make it available at any point, at any time, at on any device, that was one of the key objective to go for. And then hence we decided, okay, let's set up the development environment on a public cloud. And only one thing we looked at it, that our source code control systems should be on the hybrid cloud, so that there is a right amount of security is put in place, where the be it is a biometric or be it is a multi-factor authentication using some other out-of-band authentication are put in place. Along with the domain security, so that there your IP or whatever the algos which are being written, those are kept on a hybrid cloud, and they get backed up to the on-premise private cloud-based infrastructure, seamlessly using a single fabric. A lot of the private cloud service providers are having with the public cloud to build their hybrid offering look much more secure and much more lucrative. So while we were working on this setup of a complete development environment along with all the DevOps tools which bring the best of the agile practices in place. But the security being one of the key focus, we have implemented various levels of tools. Some of the tools who are doing the static code analysis, some of the tools we have deployed which are doing the dynamic code analysis as well. And then whenever the builds are being fired, they are being reported to the developers. And to make the whole thing much more interesting, we made it gamified as well, that using some of the open source tools where not only the code quality defects, but the security defects with the each code submission were highlighted, that how many code quality defects or how many security defects have been introduced by the code check-in by one particular developer. And that based on that, some of the reward recognition mechanisms were being set up on the dashboard, which really gamified for the people to be now much more careful while checking in the code to the source code repository, where they perform all the checks thoroughly on the developer machine itself before putting it to the build machine. And that actually in turn for us have improved the quality of the deliverables over a period of time, which normally used to get caught towards the end of the cycle, where the entire your development UAT has been approved, and then the security reviews or security code reviews are being conducted, or the dynamic code analysis being conducted with some cloud tools and all. But it piles up like tens of thousands of security findings. So now all those things are getting ironed out early in the development cycle, as well as we are finding the developer knowledge is also improving pretty fast, and their consciousness for the security practices has also gone up. So some of these have been our experiences while using the DevOps with the implemented using the security analysis and performing the analytics on that using the open source tools and giving the valuable insights to the development teams so they can have a self-realization to be conscious for the secure programming.
Thank you. I think very well said. Very, very important point that, code analysis is no longer something that happens at the end of a cycle, but since it's continuous development, it has to happen dynamically. And, so there's progress happening on that in terms of, gearing up the team to be able to analyze the code in real time dynamically and be able to reward them so that you can identify all the vulnerabilities. So I think that is definitely the need of the hour. We are reaching towards the end of the discussion, so I am just going to switch to Samir, and one last question I'll ask Samir. You heard, all these discussions. So many different points have come across on so many different aspects of security have come out, and it's indeed a very, very dynamic and very interesting area, cybersecurity to be in. What are some of the, security best practices that you would suggest to banks and fintechs for enabling automation and to ensure that full security and everything is maintained? What are some of the best practices? Maybe we can hear your views and conclude with that.
Sure. So I mean, first of all, I think excellent points made by all the panelists on the landscape. Obviously, the experience as practitioners is coming out very strongly. Of course, to your point about what all can be done is very broad, but I'll limit myself to a point about two things, about automation, one piece, and also around, I think Mr. Dube talked about the collaboration piece, the integration piece of controls, right? I mean, that in fact is something which I'm seeing happening in the industry last couple of years, where there's a lot of emphasis on integration, where controls work together. And both at customers doing that or implementers doing that, as well as vendors doing that, where there's an integration happening, so things work together, so we have a consistent way things get done, and so on and so forth. So obviously that's a good best practice to have. It has to continue going forward as well, where things work together from a consistency perspective. To our point about automation, right, and how to make that work. So I think one of the challenges we faced in the industry is abundance of technologies and tools. And that's never been an issue. And because security has the advantage of learning from other industries, we have been great at developing amazing technologies and tools. I mean, for example, automation. The car industry and manufacturing industry has been doing automation for years before us. And there are a lot of learnings from there using which we can build some excellent tools there. The one piece which I think which needs special attention in our world is what I call as human factors for automation. What I mean by that is, the end of the day, right, humans and machines have to work together for this to work in any environment. There are some things machines are great at. There are some things where, for example, look in repetitive tasks, complex tasks, and we talked about L1 activities, etc. Machines are great at that. When it comes to humans, we are great at, in a context. We are great at, creative thinking. And these are very important things when it comes to controls and responses to either incidents or proactive security management. So this combination of making machines work for us by using human, what we are good at in terms of creative thinking, context, etc., is the most important thing. We should not look at automation as one more tool which will sort of solve the issue for us. Put that tool in place and it works. It's never going to happen. It's never happened in the past as well, but it's definitely not going to happen in the case of automation. Aligning that to human factors, aligning that to the context of our organization and what works for us, I think is going to be most of the time which we will spend as practitioners in this space over the next few years in terms of making automation work. I mean, automation is writing on the wall. It is there. We have to use it just because of scale and skills. How to make it work? I think that's where the human factors have to come in. Context of the organizations have to come in, and making it work is going to be the biggest challenge. The solutions are there. Making it work is what our job is now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think very well emphasized. I think with so many security tools out there, it's important to have the right integration between those tools, because there's no dearth of tech-end tools available. There's just plenty of them that are out there. And, automation will not work alone. It is not the silver bullet. It requires human factor to come in to provide the context and be able to use the automation correctly. So very well said. Thank you so much, Samir, for those inputs. I think we've had a very, very, really good panel discussion today. Great insights. And I think, as you rightly said, the practitioners' viewpoints have really been reflected very well from their years of experience. So I think some really good insights have come out of that. With that, we will conclude today's discussion. Thank you so much for all those insights, for sharing all that experience that you have. And I think security is a continuous, evolving area, and that will continue happening. Then I'm sure that we'll keep hearing newer viewpoints in the future on how developments are happening. So thank you so much, everyone, and it has been a great discussion. I'm signing off now, and this is Anil Chopra once again. I hope everyone stays home, stays safe, and I hope everyone follows some of these guidelines around automation and automate your way through security. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, hearing all the perspectives from the best in business, the leading minds, I must say that this was such an engaging and an empathetic discussion, if I may say so. Well, thank you so much to the distinguished panel for expressing your perspectives on this unmissable aspect that we care about. Thank you to all of you.